I think the question is not do I want to have kids? It's like, do I want to have kids with you?
Which, I mean, I
is the
agree.
question,
but I think that some people, like, they know that they want to have kids. They know, well, especially as a woman, they know they want to be a mom. And they know they want to do, they know usually how many children they want to have. And I feel like a lot of women these days aren't wanting to have kids actually, and guys do. And sometimes, if I'm being totally honest, guys want to have kids for the wrong reasons, to carry their name on. They want to have kids, but then they're not really involved in their kids' lives. So it's like, why? What are you doing? And then so like, as a woman, you go on a date with a guy and he's like, well, I know I want to have kids. And, he's not probably going to say to carry on his name. Some guys might outright say it. Right. But, and as a woman, you're like, I don't really want to have kids, but I love this person. What happens then? And just to throw in on the flip side, I told you I wanted to have kids when you and I got together. Right. And then when, our family came together, I felt fulfilled. I had a kid. I still have a kid. Like your daughter feels like my daughter. Exactly, and so I don't feel the need to have any more kids because I already feel like a mom. I feel like that part of me is fulfilled. So in that instance, it's a little different. But I guess just the point of view of maybe like somebody being pretty adamant on no, but still caring enough about the person to then change their mind, but they're not mentally in the mindset to actually have a kid. Because I don't think a lot of people, especially men, no offense, know what it means to have a kid.
Well, that's what we're going to talk about.
Know what it's going to entail.
That's what we're going to talk about.
Like a woman knows a little bit more because like her body goes through it. She's carrying this kid. She knows what's going to happen the first 9 months, and she knows pretty well, you know, basically what's going to happen there on after. Like obviously you learn things as you actually have the child because every child's different and you go through different things. But I don't feel like a lot of times people really realize what having a kid even means.
Yeah, don't have kids.
I don't know how people have a ton of kids because is a lot. Well, it's a lot to be able to like focus the attention I feel like each child needs on them, when you have multiple. Like, because to be honest too, that's another reason why I think we're choosing not to have any more kids because like that would take away from Sophia and she deserves, to feel the attention and love that we give her.
And our relationship dynamic too, because we know what it's like because we have Sophia 1 week off, 1 week on, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, obviously I love Sophia to death, right? She's my daughter. And, however, our relationship dynamic has to be different. And it would be different if we had her full time because we'd have to adapt to that. But it just, like when it's me and you, we're doing things together all the time. We're just glued to the hip, kissing all the time, everything. We're not necessarily we're not kissing in front of Sophia, but we're not to the degree that we would be.
It's more like focused on her as it should be because she's the child. But
exactly.
Yeah, and most people don't have a week on, a week off.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So they don't get to sample it. That's why it's like, if people had a week on and week off, if they got to get a sample of it, most people wouldn't have kids. They wouldn't. No, I'm not saying that's, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing necessarily, but what I'm saying is that what people don't realize about kids is how it will change your relationship.
I think too that most people might choose to not have kids if they have a relationship like we have as well too, because we do enjoy each other's company.
Right.
Because there are plenty of couples who don't necessarily get along in their relationship as well, and so they get that unconditional love from their children, and so they would have, I guess they're the ones having like 5 kids because, they're getting that unconditional love from them and the love that they want from their relationship from their children.
And which means they're raising mama's boys and daddy's little girls, like not good because that's, they're there's the whole Freudian thing of, your parent and like creating those unhealthy things where you're getting the relationship needs met from your children instead of from your spouse. So
but I do think that it does, like you said, change the dynamic of your relationship. Not like in a bad way, but the focus when it's just you guys, it's just on you guys, what you guys want to do. You can pick up and go wherever you want to travel and whatnot. But when you have a child, there's so many more things. You have to not only plan what you're going to do, but what they're going to do and, you know, that sort of thing. And you also need to give them attention. You know, we have one child, so she doesn't have a sibling to play with or something like that. So her attention comes from us.
Yeah.
And so that's why, you know, when we do the 50-50, when the weeks we have her, it is a lot about her.
Yeah.
Like not to make her like spoiled with that.
No,
but,
we definitely don't do that. But
you know, we have a whole week to do things that we want to do, just you and I.
Exactly.
So it makes no sense in our minds to do date nights on a week that we have her when we can do 3 date nights next week, you know, and not have to hire a babysitter or leave her alone or any sort of thing like that.
Yeah.
Like, that's not to say that we went on our anniversary trip, just us, because it was our anniversary trip.
Yeah.
But that's not to say that we don't do things and vacations with her as well too, and those sort of things. So, you know, we balance it because we also have a little bit more like way of balancing it with the 50-50. But I know that it has to be harder for, you know, even good relationships to find the time to go on date nights and, you know, how much time away from my children and, you know, sometimes too emotionally as the wife who's really sensitive to the emotions. Sometimes I take on a lot of her emotions and things she's going through, and it's a lot for me. And sometimes that week where it's just me and you and I can just like breathe through the things that we went through necessarily is really helpful. But I realize that a lot of families don't have that, you know?
Exactly,
and I do empathize with mothers and fathers who, you know, are going through that hard stuff all the time. And with multiple kids, you know, you have multiple emotions coming from multiple people. So it is a lot emotionally to take on. It's hard work and it's really hard to do it the right way. Absolutely. But you need to do it the right way.
Yeah. And I would, you know, I would kind of challenge too, like some of the people that think, oh, and you kind of said this about, it's like, I want to have 3 kids exactly. Or it's like, you don't need to plan so much of your life that way. It's like, I need to live in this house. Like people don't plan that, but people are like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to have 3 kids. And it's like, okay. I mean, like having a kid, like, let's see how life goes and see, you know, is that, I mean, obviously you have a time.
I mean, I can maybe see planning 1 or 2 because most people are like, I only want to have 1, or most people are like, I want to have 2 so they have someone to play with.
But base it on who you're with.
Yeah.
You know, because that it's going to put a lot of stress on that relationship. And
you have to have a rock solid foundation. Like the relationship's where it all starts. And that should be the number 1. You know, it's the core of it. Like you start off in a relationship and it's just you 2, and then you have children a lot of the time. Or like either way, like it's the relationship first, because that is what influences the child and everything else in the household. So
better than